Open your hearts, loosen your butts. It's time for couples therapy, honey.
Yeah, this podcast is Andy and Naomi's, where they can both laugh and hang with all their homies, talking excellent vacationing with brunches and cuddling, to messy situationships and conscious and coupling, from Netflix hookups to single them with some Hulu, text, sex, regrets, or feeling on your new jubu. They gon' talk about it, yeah, you are invited, needing therapy, I guarantee, baby, we got it.
It's couples therapy. Couples therapy.
Hello, everyone. My name's Andy.
And I am Naomi,
And welcome to Couples Therapy, where we break down relationships, love, and life with wildly entertaining and talented guests.
Yes.
Thank you, Christina. That's a very succinct. Christina wrote a whole thing where she's like, I think everything we like about your intros there, and the tagline and the theme song.
Right.
Keep it short. She didn't write this, but I read into it. It said, keep it short, schmucks.
Well, she said all you need to do is Marie Kondo it and simplify your shit.
Oh, yeah, no.
So,
She was incredibly
yeah,
nice. I'm
she
just
was
saying that.
direct about it. And
Yes,
I was
no.
like, I hear you, queen. In 2020, we want to streamline it all.
No. I always read my own insecurities into everyone's.
Oh, of course. And to anyone, to me,
Into
any
anyone's.
facial expression, any lilt, any pause. So I'm with you on that.
We're very excited because burgers are on their way. We're sitting here recording this intro days before this episode drops, and we looked at each other and we're like, we haven't had a burger in a while.
It was time.
And this place got Impossible Burgers, folks.
So Andy was like, yes. I also ordered fries and an array of dipping sauces. So, things are going to get fun. Things are going to get fun in about 32 minutes.
We are worn out by everything, and all we want is Impossible Burgers, or for Naomi, non-impossible.
Very possible burgers.
Very possible.
Very possible burgers.
That's what they should start calling regular burgers, like
yeah.
meat burgers. They're possible
They're
burgers.
possible. These are impossible. You guys...
You feeling okay, Naomi?
No, I'm feeling okay. I just kind of I just want to say really quickly, I'm just going to be real cheesy and just say how much I just appreciate you listening to the pod, sticking with us, going on the journey.
Yeah.
That is 2020.
True.
And I feel it in my heart and feel it in my bones. I feel like it took me a long time to sort of realize and accept that there were people on the other end of this microphone eventually. Do you know what I mean? Listening. And now I'm starting to, I feel like more getting a sense of who our listeners are, who our community is, and just really filled with gratitude, an attitude of gratitude. So I'm putting it out there, and I'm trying to create positivity because every fiber of my being is negative.
And I have an attitude of ratitude, my favorite Weezer album.
Ratitude is an album?
Yeah, also untrue. I pretty much
It's very clear. Andy has got to let you know that rhyme was not factually accurate.
It's not. Look, I don't want the listeners thinking that I like anything past Pinkerton, Naomi.
I know it's important to you. I know.
I have to feel, Naomi, I was never cool. All right? All right? So anytime that I gotta at least project some amount of coolness.
Yeah.
All right? I'll never be cool, but if I can just have a I was gonna say an ounce, not even an ounce.
Yeah.
A sprinkling of coolness.
Yeah.
And part of that is not liking any Weezer past Pinkerton. Sorry, Rivers. Sorry, Pat.
Andy, they're two of our top listeners. You guys, before we get to our guest,
We have an update.
we do have
Do you
an
wanna
update.
read it?
I do want to read this update. It makes me so happy.
Now, do you remember it was in Arden's episode? Just
Yes.
dropped last week.
Yes.
All right.
And
there
we-
was a listener who wrote in asking advice about their husband who was suddenly had a personality change and was going to vote for President Shithead.
And this listener had just had a new baby, and this was not the person she had married. Okay, so
It was as if a pod person
right
had replaced her husband.
right.
We got an update.
We got an update. So here it is, because I think inquiring minds want to know. First of all, I want to say thank you all for your kind words. It feels like I wrote to you guys so long ago, but then again, 2020. Naomi, thank you so much for telling me to talk it out. It's actually exactly what I did to have more understanding. And of course, Andy was right about internet conspiracies. And yes, my husband is white. With a lot of research debunking theories and talking, everything felt so much better. And now to top it off, someone very close in his family has COVID, and he has definitely changed his mind and is now voting Biden. We got our ballots this past week, and we actually did them together with finding more information before really checking off that bubble. It seems so long ago writing to you guys, mostly because a lot has happened to change his mind, because of fucking course we need to vote him out. Anyway, thank you so much. Your words were really needed, and I'm just happy to report back with way better news. I mean, when we got this DM, I screamed. I screamed, didn't I? I screamed.
You shattered my eardrums. The pets ran.
It was like the Beatles had come into town in 1960. I was losing my mind.
You mean when you got this? When we got the update?
The update.
Oh, I thought you meant when you got the original email. You screamed.
No, I was squealed with delight.
Yes.
Is that better? I squealed
Yes.
with delight.
I think that's better.
Screaming, as hilarious comedian Brent Sullivan says. I was screaming.
I see what you're saying. Yes, you were very excited when you got this update.
I was dying.
I thought you were when you got the original email. You were terrified.
I
You
was
were
livid.
Screaming.
No, I was livid.
You were
But
screaming
this-
in terror, like we were watching our friend Josh's new movie on Shudder. Scare Me.
Scare Me on Shudder. Are you watching it? Have you seen it? Really tour de force performances from Josh and Aya Cash. I must say.
Love them.
Isn't that great, guys? See what happens sometimes, honey? You gotta talk it out before you walk it out. That's what I say, right?
Talk it out before you caulk it out. That's what I mean, but before you seal someone behind the wall of your bathroom.
Okay, yes. Now I'm getting it. Yes,
Cask
that is
of
accurate.
Amontillado style. Naomi, this is a great episode. We're very excited about this. We left talking to this person feeling uplifted, I believe.
We felt like 10 pounds lighter. We felt the sun shining on our faces indoors.
I
you
wish
know?
for real we were 10 pounds. Well, I'm not speaking for you.
Well, I do.
wish I for real was
But
10
you know how
pounds
am I
lighter.
saying, honey? It's rough. You guys,
I love you just the way you are.
and I love you the way you are.
Too bad we don't love ourselves the way we are.
Love it. You guys, you have already heard his stunning voice. We are talking to Brandon Kyle Goodman. He is an actor, writer, and host of the podcast Black Folks and Do the Work, a brand new pod which you heard a little sample of on our feed. He has written for Big Mouth, appeared on Modern Love, and he is just a gem of a human who we were delighted to talk to.
Yeah. It was we kind of knew Brandon through some friends here in Los Angeles. I think we mentioned it on the episode. And so we like slightly knew him before we started talking to him, and we knew he was a cool dude.
But this is our first time doing a little deep dive, getting in there, and it's just like wonderful when you're like, oh, you seem cool and you are cool, you know? And also, no, you seem cool and you are nice. You know what I mean? He's a warm, open heart, and that's beautiful.
Yeah. Before we get to the show, though, a couple housekeeping things. We actually have some, internet live shows, but some live shows coming up that I think are really cool. One of them is I'm doing this show for this, I don't know what you call it, organization called Sister District, but basically they are involved in trying to flip red seats in like state legislatures around the country blue. All right?
Yes, it's about those local elections, baby.
And I did this before, and it was super fun. The last one I did was with June Diane Raphael and Sheer and Manzukis and Greg Proops and a bunch of other cool people.
I like that you just said Sheer. You know, you give us the three names of June, and then you go Sheer, Mansukis. Honey, we don't all listen to How Did This Get Made. Actor Paul Sheer, actor-comedian Jason Manzukis.
For the, 3 times I've met him in a green room at UCB. I'm like, yeah, me and Sheer.
Sheer.
But basically, a bunch of comedians play Quiplash, and some lucky audience members get to play with them.
What a fun time.
Now, I know I'm not that exciting, but, people, I don't know if those people will be there, but some cool people of that caliber.
It's a
will
true
be there.
cavalcade of stars. Okay.
Yeah, and it's going to be the 25th, Sunday the 25th at 4 p.m. PST, 7 p.m. EST. And if you just look up Sister District Portland,
I
it's
love
the first
way you
hit.
just really hit those T's.
It's better
baby.
than reading at the URL. It's
No,
the
you're
first
correct.
hit on ye old Google, and just click it, and you should be able to find the information right there on the front page. So,
And you know what else? We're doing something together, love.
yeah.
On Tuesday, 11/3, you know what date that is, we will be doing an hour-long couples therapy show, just me and Andy, for Vote No Joke. And that will be 12 hours of comedic performances starting from going from noon to midnight. We are at 1 p.m. PST, 4 p.m. Eastern. And honey, the whole point is to give you some lulls while you waiting at the polls. That is a fact.
Is that one of their things, or did you just make
No,
that
I
up?
just came up with that.
You are the successor to Jesse Jackson.
Thank you so much. I have been saying that for years.
Yeah, but it should be like a really fun show. We're just basically going to be doing our Twitch show.
Yeah.
We'll be doing some people have requested we do Whose Sign Is It Anyway, which is a where Naomi and I do Seinfeld bits off the top of our heads.
Based on suggestions from the audience.
You can actually, if you go to Instagram, it's one of the things I just posted.
It's like so dumb.
Oh, it's incredibly stupid, but it's fun. But yeah, if you go to aafront.org/VNJ, you can get more information on that.
And again, as we said, we'll be doing, pretty much a version of our Twitch show. But as always, we do have our Twitch show Wednesdays, 2 p.m. PST, 5 p.m. EST. I mean, good God, 10 p.m. GMT. Okay, because
Wow.
we've got some UK listeners.
Oh, that's
baby.
true. We do.
UK watchers.
We do have some UK watchers.
and
We
that
have
is-
some Australian watchers. What's
That's
that
true.
time
It was like
zone,
7
Naomi?
a.m. I think they said. They were like, it's 7 a.m. and I was like, blessings to you to be doing this.
Yeah,
first thing in the morning.
we're taking this week off, but next week and every week after that.
Well, we
every
may,
Wednesday.
we may take some breaks.
Well, we'll see what
for
happens.
Sanity.
We'll
But
see what
the
happens after the election.
The point is, if you go to twitch.tv/couplestherapypod, free to watch, check it out, hang out. There's a whole, we have our whole community now in the chat. We're calling it group. We're the CTQC. We're getting shirts made. That is not a joke.
Yeah, we're close to making this a cult, I guess.
So just really get on in there. Again, it's a fun hour if you need to just take a break,
Yeah.
goof off with your
And-
faves.
And, of course, this is an advice episode. And if you would like to call up and leave your own voicemails, advice questions, asking us for help, 323-524-7839. Of course, we will take DMs. We love voicemails, though.
But I love a VM.
I think that's it, Naomi. Do we get through the assault of promos, of plugs?
Absolutely. And now, without any further ado, let's give them the beauty that is Brandon Kyle Goodman.
Roll it! The cat is sitting next to me. And
Yes.
The dog just jumped up to the dog wants to be friends with the cats. The cats want nothing
The cats
to
want
do with the
nothing.
dog.
Right. The cats are Mariah Carey. The dog is J-Lo. I don't know her. It's that
Yes,
energy
it's
in this
that
house.
energy.
It's
It's that
very,
energy.
I don't know
I'm
her.
I'm a fan. I don't know her, but I'm a fan. I don't know her. Yes.
Always.
BKG, can I just say this?
Yes, please.
Love your energy.
Thank you.
got a good energy.
Thank you.
He has a very good energy, a warmth, an open heart.
I
Despite
had some candles lit. I did the mood lighting down. I saged a little bit. That's what
Yeah.
you feeling.
I'm vibing with you. I'm resonating on the same wavelength that you are resonating on.
I'm here for that. I love
Just
it.
wanted to put that out there. I
Are
want
y'all
this.
wearing your merch? Because I'm obsessed.
I am. I personally am.
I love it.
I'm wearing a K Records t-shirt with a little.
Had you-
Okay. I'm wearing a shirt that says "thought." I
was
was like
just-
couples therapy. I just want to be a hoe on couples therapy.
Is that hold on? Is that your relationship past? I know you're married now, right?
yes, yes. But
Were
always
you a hoe?
Oh, always, still.
Always, always, and forever.
Fair enough.
Born a hoe, dying a hoe. What are we talking about? Never and ever.
How long have you been married?
We've been married. Thank you for asking me questions that I shouldn't know the immediate answer to. A little over a year and a half. January will be 2 years.
Wow. I'm so surprised you're married because I think of you as just so.
As a hoe.
Not even hoe, but you're a man that can't be contained. I'm saying, what? I'm like, he is settled down. I mean, your husband's wonderful. Because when I met
Yes.
him, I was like, okay, power couple, I see it. But I was just surprised in general at, I think of you as a force out here in these streets. Maybe it's because you have so many hot pics on Insta.
Oh, yes. I like to keep people thinking that, I still am out in these streets running them, but I love being at home on my couch with my hubby.
Yes, yes, very much relate to that
Yes.
concept.
But you curate
Yes, the branding.
the image is
Yeah, the whole brand.
yes,
Brand. Yes.
shirtless, glistening.
Always
hat.
baby oil, not coconut oil because coconut oil stains the pants and the clothes.
Wow.
So
Okay. Good to
I
know.
just learned that. I just learned that.
That's good to know. You learn from experience. It's funny 'cause Andy said too when he was like, Brandon looks good in a hat. Looks real good in a hat. That was like his takeaway was hat work. It was so funny to me.
I can't pull it off. If I put a hat on, my head looks strangely shaped.
Hats are
think?
not for everyone, and every hat is not for everyone. I just
That's true.
It's taken a while for me to find the company that like the hats
Does it?
work.
I really want to be a hat person. I've always wanted to be a hat and like a shoe, more sneaker person. I thought
Ooh, I'm
I
a
would love
sneaker
that,
person.
and yet whenever I like get into it, it's like. It's like another thing to lose. I think of hats as like another thing that I'm gonna put down in the seat next to me, and it's gonna be over.
But you're
Or-
not supposed to take the hat off because the hat is the look. Don't put the hat on. It's a part of the look. It can't come off.
Right. You are
She
correct.
means at home. There's a pile of stuff. I don't know if you can see behind her.
no,
Just
I'm
like
blocking it on purpose. The pile.
She's like hugging you. Like she's
I know.
Like,
Wait,
"Don't."
watch. I'm gonna lean over and see if you can see it.
Oh yes, I do see that pile.
So
What's
yes,
what's on
there's
that
a hat.
pile?
There's a hat in there somewhere.
Hats and purses. Just open wallet. Like I'm not. I know what's in the pile, but I will never clean the pile.
You'll never
You know?
organize it.
Yes.
See, we couldn't live together. My husband is that way, and he's almost gotten kicked out a couple times because I live for a container. Container store is like, I mean, honey, on my desk are like 5 containers. You can see this is one.
Wow.
It has
Yeah.
the
Hey, I got those.
electronics.
Oh, yeah.
yes. I live for the containers and the container store. I gotta have everything.
You like it
otherwise I
neat
lose-
and tidy, just so.
I live for neat and tidy.
I said you and
I
I
live.
resonating on the same wavelength.
yes.
I feel it.
But I will say, for
Yes.
someone who likes neat and tidy, you're not afraid to get messy because this new podcast of yours, which
That
we heard at
segue,
Extra Club-
stop it. That segue was delicious.
That was a professional segue.
That
I
was
did not
ma-
expect. I honestly didn't expect.
I know.
That was
didn't expect.
masterful.
I didn't think we were going in that direction.
I know, but I know we weren't because I was like, we do want to hear about like life and love, but I was also just thinking about how, not just the podcast, but sort of the conversations you've been having since what I'm calling the Caucasian awakening.
Oh, well, here's I mean, yes.
2020.
No. Let me throw this out. at you.
Yes.
You like where I tiptoe, and I think Naomi does, not with each other, but
Sure.
with every other human being.
Yes.
We tiptoe around any kind of conflict.
Sure.
Don't want to
Yeah,
wade
yeah.
into those waters. We stay as far away from conflict as possible.
Absolutely. You're in the middle of the city away from the shore. Yes.
Exactly.
I can't watch Curb Your Enthusiasm without feeling
You feel it viscerally.
in my body. Yes.
Yes.
And
The
I just can't
tension.
watch it because I don't like it.
Well,
So there's that.
wow, Larry David, you are on blast.
I am dragging Larry
Drag
David
him.
on this pod.
Drag him from the strands of his hair around the back of his neck. Come on now.
But
gotta find the
somehow
strands.
you can the energy that conflict brings is not stored in your body, or it is stored and you can figure out ways to discharge it. I don't know. I'm asking. I'm throwing out possibilities.
Yeah.
You tell me what the truth is.
Sure, I too hate conflict, but that's why I try to approach my conversations from like a breakdown kind of way, as opposed to like I dream of being a Real Housewife, but I know that I could never handle it. I could never handle the anger and the conflict of that. But when people are like, "Oh, tell me what you want," or tell me what we need to do, I can give that information, right? Like I'd be a
Okay.
terrible salesperson. Like if I had to like cold call you and be like, hey, let's talk about racism, I'd be very bad at that. I'd
Ooh.
be awful at that.
That's why I don't like phone banking. I do it when I have to,
yeah.
and they're
It's
mostly
important,
Yeah.
but it's a skill.
It's painful.
It really,
yeah.
a skill I don't really have. Although the only good conversation I ever had phone banking was I was calling like a real Republican area of California, and I got this guy who was like really super religious, but he was also struggling with accepting gay people. I think that's what his thing was. And he's like,
Sounds about right,
he was having, and I
Republicans.
spent 45 minutes on the phone saying like, hey, I've read the Jesus parts of the Bible. It pretty much says love everyone. I don't think there's like a asterisk in there.
Not at all.
So so I don't know what the conflict is, buddy. I said it like that. I got
Like
it
that.
like that. I'm like, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
what's Jesus says love everyone. What's your fucking
the deal?
problem, pal?
Oh my God, 40 minutes for 40 whole minutes. That lasted a long time. That
It-
lasted a long time.
It really.
You're like really trying to find out the conflict, really trying to find out
Exactly.
what the problem is. Love the gays. People are gay.
Yeah,
People
but
are
like,
gay. Hot takes from Brandon Kyle Goodman.
oh, I think the guy had like an old dad. I think that's what part of it was.
I thought he was an old guy. Like
He was old, and his dad. He told me a lot. It was almost like, I'll say this, phone banking, and maybe this is it for you too.
Sure.
But like, it felt like I was giving free therapy
Oh.
to people who maybe don't have access to therapy.
Sure. See, I experienced like an immediate hang up. Do you know? And that's just too much rejection. Like after 5 calls where it's like,
yeah.
click, I'm like, I'm feeling personally triggered. So-
Oh wow! See, if it was just a plain hang up, I could do it. It's
Yeah.
if it's like "fuck you, Trump 2020," I'd be like, okay.
Which it often is. Sometimes
It
they
is.
like to yell at you before they hang up. See, I am simply, if I get a call I don't want, I simply hang up. Like it's just not personal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
But there are people who were waiting to fight. You know,
Right.
Right.
You got
But
the
sorry,
right one on the wrong day. You know what I'm saying? That energy. That energy.
I derailed this conflict. You go.
Yes. I too hate conflict, but you know, if it's for the greater good, and if people are willing, that's what I meant earlier.
Right.
When it's like a cold call is like, I hate that, but if people come in and they're like, hey, I do want to learn about this thing, then I'm down to have that conversation. And I actually studied conflict management, so like I have some of that
Oh, okay.
energy. I got some of those skills.
Wait,
to
how did
handle.
you do that?
Wait,
Because
where?
we know
Yeah.
you're a tish bish, and so where
That's
did conflict
tish bish.
management come in?
Tish Bish, that's where it came from. I took, this is a roundabout the way, but I took a hip hop theater class or hip hop theater studies. And part of that was our teacher taught us about conflict management and gave us these tools of like how to handle difficult discourse, because it was a hip hop class, theater at NYU. So as you can imagine, filled with white people. Filled to the brim with the whites. The white people were there, honey, wanting to learn. And so there were some moments where the black people were like, I'm sorry, what did you what's your question? And our teacher was like, okay, conflict, let's talk about this. And so the whole thing is like, you're supposed to like say what you heard, and then the person repeats back what they actually said, and then it's a whole thing.
Okay.
God, a sea of white people just talking about how much they love Kanye.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Oh, that
Yeah.
was such a knowing yes.
That energy.
Yes.
Wow.
That energy.
But I mean, it does feel like it really was in the Caucasian Awakening that you sort of found the strength within to take up this mantle, to be the person to kind of help some people out. Because
Unexpectedly, yeah.
I was like, what was that? I mean, honey, I'm doing Insta stories, but they're not really touching on any deep issues. I'm just telling you what I ate today. And so, like, what kind of made you? Was it just a feeling of, okay, I need somewhere to put these feelings, and then people came into you and you said, okay, let's get into it? Or
Yes, that's exactly. I think the very first video was, I have these feelings. I'm not about to have like individual conversations with each white person that I know. So let's just like make one video, put it on Instagram, and the people who need to see it will see it. And then that kind of blew up. And then it was that moment of like, wait, do I keep doing this? Do I keep having these conversations? And I did. I felt like, I had clearly something was resonating with people. And so I was like, well, let me use whatever my skills are to keep talking as much as I can to help,
do you ever get tired of it? Because I'm very weird
Yes.
of helping. Because
Yes.
it's interesting.
Guys, when you get tired of it, you can just recommend everyone read White Fragility.
Yes.
A white woman's book about how you're all going to hell. It's like, oh my! Of all the
Sorry,
books
that
to
was-
be the book, though.
So we're all clear, listeners. That was irony.
But you know what I mean? Like that book. I don't know. Anyway,
Sorry, we don't have to get into.
No, we don't have to get into that. But
We can if you want. I mean, that's conflict. That's conflict. You're right. We're all conflict averse. Yeah.
Unless you guys just want. By you guys, I mean the listeners want just half an hour of us dragging. What's her name? Who's the
What's her face?
Who's
I
the
know.
writer of
Robin
White Fragility?
D'Angelo.
Yes.
Listen, it was. I will say this. It was a book.
It was a book. That should be
Right, that's
Full
it. You're right,
stop.
it was a book.
Full stop.
It was a
I
book.
will
It was a
say
book.
this. It was a book. I will say
was
this. It has an
a book.
ISBN number.
It was a book. I recommended it at first, and then obviously we learned controversial things around and have whatever. But I was just like, it was whatever. Get away from me. I don't have any more answers. So like, white fragility, how to be an anti-racist. Just like read, like here are your beginner guides, and however you get the information is however you get it. But I need you to get the information. So whatever way speaks to you, do that.
That's true. That's true. I mean, do you feel like because again, you went to NYU, you're from New York though.
Yes.
Did you go, like, was NYU your intro to being around all white people all the time? Or
No, girl.
Okay.
Oh, God,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
No. I went to a boarding school in Georgia.
Okay, Georgia.
Rome, Georgia.
Okay, when in Rome.
And-
When in Rome, Georgia.
When in Rome, Georgia, leave, honey. When you get there, when you see it, leave, honey. So that was like my introduction because before that, I grew up in New York, Queens. I went to the United Nations International School.
okay.
So we were all of different backgrounds. And so going to Rome, Georgia was when it was like, oh, you are the black kid, and these are a bunch of white kids.
Sorry, why would you leave New York to? No offense to anyone from Georgia. Why would
Ask
you
my
leave?
mama, honey. Ask Mama Goodman. That's a question for her. That ain't a question for me. They gave me a scholarship.
Yeah.
And it was like a good education.
Sure. In so many ways. Do you know what I mean? Like a good education, but also a good education.
A good education. Yes. Understand what these white people out here doing.
Exactly. Below the Mason-Dixon.
Yes.
Get
Don't
the
be
answer.
fooled by this Puerto Rican parade and the Caribbean Day parade up in New York, honey. The Rome, Georgia ain't doing none of that, and you need to know that. You need to know. You need to know that.
Oh God! So that's what you guys have in common because Naomi went to Dalton.
Okay.
Yeah, yes. On the Upper
Wait,
East
where is
Side.
Dalton?
Upper East Side.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Oh, so you were with them white people.
Oh yes, the wealthy
sedity.
gossip girl, the gossip girl fight.
Yes, I still have this fantasy, which is that I really want to be like an old white woman who lives on the Upper East Side.
Yes.
Rich, 3 husbands gone, lots of money, drinking martinis at 10 in the morning. Pearls, just pearls.
Yes. Oh my God, what was the name of the woman who I loved? Was it Leona Hemsley who gave all her money to her dog? She left her money to her dog in her will.
See, I want to do that. I want to leave everyone alive, like scratching their heads, like this motherfucker left his money to the dog. So much of it.
That to me, I was
This
like,
guy left his
ultimate.
money to a brick wall.
Yes.
Give it more bricks. Give it more bricks. That kind of like to be wealthy and petty,
Wealthy
To
and
really
petty.
Just like
Yeah.
wow.
The
Millions.
dreams.
Millions.
Millions for the dog.
So, going to high school in Rome, Georgia.
Yes.
And then you came back here. You said, honey, get me back up north.
Yes.
What was your romantic life like? Your relationships? Were you hooking up? Were you crushing in Rome, Georgia, or it wasn't until you got to college?
That's a good question. She really asked to direct.
I don't do conflict. I just ask you directly.
In Rome, Georgia, I had a couple of girlfriends because I was definitely trying to figure out my life.
Yeah.
And I apologize to them for not knowing sooner that they would not be for me. And then I got to NYU, and that's when I started trying to really. Actually, it was my summer before senior year in high school. No humble brag. I went to a program at Yale for this summer.
Wow.
Just humble brag. I'll say it again. I went to a program at Yale for this summer. And that's where I had like my first like queer experience.
Okay.
And so that's when I started actually questioning. But then it wasn't until I got to NYU that I could actually kind of explore and see what that was. And my freshman year roommate was bisexual, or is bisexual. Because he's still alive, and he basically gave me the best advice, which is like, you don't have to define it, you don't have to know it, feel free to explore, and then if by May, as I say, gay by May, honey, if by May you are feeling one way more than the other, then you can kind of define it, and that's what happened.
Okay.
And it was like the best advice. It gave me the freedom. And I would actually take it one step further now, which is like, I think you're always allowed to explore. You don't ever, like, these labels are so, oh my God, they're exhausting.
Exhausting indeed.
And
let
then
a
they're truly-
motherfucker live.
They truly are kind of ephemeral. Well, it depends. Actually, this is the thing that, like, I think slowly as humans, if as a species we can survive, we're slowly moving towards understanding ourselves as constantly changing. But also, that change itself, this is where it gets complicated, that change itself is on a spectrum. So there's some people
Yes.
who don't change.
Right.
And throughout their entire lives, they're like, oh, this is my identity, and I'm kind of like, yeah, I get who I am.
Right.
And then
Yes.
all the way to other people who are like, oh, no, my identity does change throughout time. Like, it develops in different areas in different ways.
And also
And-
in relation to different people.
Yes. And so it can...
But do you think the people who don't change, that's because they're scared? Like, don't you think like if change was widely accepted, which it is not, everybody hates change, we all hate it. But if we were reared to believe that change is a beautiful, natural thing and we all do it, don't you feel like everyone would do it? Or do you think there would still be people that'd be like, no, this is who I am, I'm good?
I still think there'd be people.
I do just
Yeah,
because
okay.
I think there are people who like whatever their identity is, it gets set in by the time they're like 20. And
Sure.
then it's just like, it's who I am.
Yeah.
That's me.
I also think,
Hi, that's me.
With that voice.
but I think it's like there's a reason why like The Bachelorette's been on for 45 years. There's a reason
Wow.
why people eat lean cuisine.
We
Some
love
of
it,
us
yes.
are simple. Some of us like the basics, and I think that is a personality in and of itself, right?
That's
like,
fair, that's
certain
fair.
people have to be kind of rocks, like meaning steady
Yeah.
rocks. I don't mean dumb as rocks.
Yeah.
Solid. Solid as a rock.
Solid as a rock. Yes.
You know, some
Absolutely.
people just need to be that way, and I think that's like, yeah, because there are people where it's like they don't question because they're like, it's fine. Because I do
Yeah.
think you have to be sort of pushed to change.
Sure,
right?
yes.
But I
yes.
just mean like not even but like the fluidity of identity. There are always going to be some people that are like, look, it's like Unbreakable, right? Mr. Glass.
Oh no.
Wait.
Mr. Glass. Hold on, listen.
First
to
of all,
this.
I immediately went to Alicia Keys' song Unbreakable, and I was like, it's like Alicia Keys. Okay,
I thought
It's
so.
like
Shit
M.
for a
Night
second.
Shyamalan. It's like the M. Night Shyamalan Alicia Keys joint. Unbreakable.
yes.
No, but like Mr. Glass was the end of the of like Breakable, and his bones were super breakable, and on the other end of the spectrum was Bruce Willis's character,
Who
was-
cannot be broken.
who cannot be broken.
Uh-huh.
So you're always going to have the identities who cannot be broken, and you're always going to have
Yes.
the identities that are breakable and fluid.
Malleable,
Sure.
malleable,
Malleable,
yes.
malleable,
Breakable
yeah.
implies, you know,
I was just going with
brokenness.
the metaphor, but
Yeah, it's
Sure,
fine.
sure.
It's fine.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
I told you not to bring up M. Night Shyamalan in front of company, but here we are.
But here we are, and we're going with it. Yes, no, I agree with you. I just think that if we were more accepting as a society, I do agree that there would probably be people still who wouldn't change, but I think there'd be more people in that middle space.
I bet you're
in
right.
that gray space that's like, oh yeah, whatever, let's go with it, and
Right.
let's allow it to evolve. Because even what you said earlier, like at 20, who are you at 20? Like
Yeah.
you're nobody at 20. You know nothing at 20. I mean, 20-year-old me, trash. You know, like, still needing time to develop and evolve, which is good. Trash is good, but it's like you need time to develop and evolve, and it's going to shift. And who will I be at 40? I'm sure that'll be very different than who I am right now. But I think it's the change happens because I want it to happen.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm open
Right.
to it.
Right,
as
right,
opposed to
right.
I have to stay like who I was when I was 20.
Right. Definitely.
Oh yeah, well those are I mean, there's also the people who are like like they are changing as a person or they recognize it, but then they're clinging. They're like the people who peaked in high school, who
Yes.
like are clinging
Yes.
to like the football trophy or.
That football.
I know that's a cliche.
No, but I know
No.
what you mean, though.
Debate
Yeah.
trophy.
Yeah.
All
No.
right, stop screaming at me, everyone. The science trophy.
It's
it doesn't
very
have to be
real.
sports.
It can be really hard for white men to be victimized, Brandon. You know, you really can't raise your voice.
You really
They're
can.
hurting right now. They're hurting right now.
And what's funny is we haven't even raised our voices.
The interesting thing about it. The interesting thing.
Guys, Bill Burr has a lot to say.
So, you know, as you said, like, you kind of got to NYU. That's when you started to experiment, sort of not just experiment, but just kind of like explore yourself, right?
Explore,
Grow up,
yeah.
basically. Just like literally college, you grew up.
Yes.
You know, how were your relations, you know, because you seem to be so mature and emotionally open and stuff. Were your relationships always like healthy and normal?
Oh no! Oh my god! No! Oh my god! My relationships were awful because there was no sense of love for myself. I also think that queer people, specifically, because most of us, and this is changing as the world changes, but I think my generation and definitely the generations before me, it's like you weren't really out in high school, and so you weren't exploring or in relationships or figuring that out. You don't figure that out to college, some of us until our 20s. So you're kind of emotionally immature in terms of relationships, right? Okay. So all the mistakes that I feel like maybe a 15-year-old was making, I was making it like 25. You know, like, you know, what a 15-year-old is like, oh, this is a trash man that I'll keep with me. At 25, you were like, that's a trash man. And I was like, oh, I love it. He likes me. He wants to be my friend. Like, you know, so I definitely, you know, accepted a lot of things that were inappropriate and bad behavior. I let slide because you're just, for me, I just wanted to be loved, and I hadn't figured out, which is so corny, but hadn't figured out how to love myself first. Yeah. So I was accepting just a lot of, oh my God, if I could just be a fly on the wall of my 25-year-old self dating, it would be,
I know.
Like, what, are we
sad.
talking just like people who like don't have like box springs? Or are we talking about...
No, not even. I think like, I don't care, you know, how much money. I mean, now I would tell myself, 25-year-old self, like, check the credit score. Like, that is important. But at the time, I didn't care.
12.
I was,
A 12, a double digit.
600. Oh, girl. At the time, I didn't care about that stuff. But what was happening was kind of, like, I had a partner who, whenever I upset him, he would give me the silent treatment. Like, he wouldn't talk to me. Like, we would be out in public, and he just wouldn't talk to me. Which is inappropriate and disrespectful behavior to your partner. I have this thing that my husband clocked like a year ago, which is that like when we both go out, I always take my own set of keys, whereas he'll be like, oh, you have the keys. And I realized that was because there would be times with this particular ex when he would just like leave. He would just like leave me and go home. And if I didn't have my keys, I couldn't get back into our apartment.
Oh my
so like,
God.
just like really bad abusive behavior that me now would be like, no. And in fact, I think my husband had to deal with a lot at the top of our relationship because I was very like, no. Like, you're not doing that. Wait, what'd you say? like everything I was on top of because you will not disrespect me. You will
You were having the argument with the new guy that you should have had with the old guy.
Yes. 1,000%.
You overcorrected with your husband.
1,000%. Like overly independent, ready for him to abandon me, ready for him to leave, which is like all that trauma that luckily he was the right partner to heal that with. But yeah, no, me in the 20s dating, trash. Awful.
How did you...
Also, go ahead. Sorry.
No, you must. Also, give me
I was
more.
going to say also chasing the Sex and the City dream. Like,
yes,
chasing the Carrie Bradshaw of it all.
Hanging out at cafeteria every weekend.
Every weekend. Eating that mac and cheese, which was delicious.
The mac and cheese was so good.
That mac and cheese and the trio with the truck. Come on.
Oh my
If
God,
y'all don't know,
you are
cafeteria.
taking me back to youth. Because I did think that was the coolest thing ever. Like being in Chelsea when I was young and like some friends in a cafeteria. Like looking back, the food was fine. But it was also like packed at all times because of Sex and the City.
I will say I was excited to eat there when I finally did.
Did you?
Absolutely. And it was open 24 hours.
Yes.
So like at 2 a.m, you're done with the club, you go to cafeteria, you're like, oh,
And it's
I'm
packed.
fancy.
And it's packed. Yeah.
Yes, after the club or after improv practice, whichever one.
Whichever one
is cooler.
Whichever one is cooler. Yes, packed. But it's your like, and now I look at Sex and the City and I'm like, wow, all your friends are trash for letting you end up with that man. Like, what is this?
I know. Like, I was pretty disappointed that Big was the one. I was like,
Wildly.
him? Ugh.
Didn't he stand you up at the library?
I
and
thought
your
we were all-
friends?
I thought we were all talking about Baryshnikov.
Oh, well,
he
he
was
was
also-
terrible. But
he
I was
was also
always Team
terrible.
Aiden. I was always Team Aiden.
Anybody who is healthy and functional is Team Aiden. That man would have taken care of her forever.
Hello, he would have had you in the apocalypse, okay?
Come on.
He would have built you a house. Remember when she was like out in the
From
country?
scratch.
And she's like, I ain't not a country girl. I'm like, girl, you better pick up that plywood.
He was
I'm not country.
refurbishing the new house. Remember next door? They bought next door.
Yes.
He was
Yes.
refurbishing it.
Yes.
He bought it. That meant his money was correct. Come on. Anyways.
God.
Sorry.
Wait, David, you're gonna ask a question.
Well, yeah, but like now I'm just like, now we got to answer questions. But I was just curious, like literally curious about like, you know, as you said, that process of learning to love yourself.
Yes.
I know it's like not an easy question to answer, but what was it like? How did you get there? Because I think about it as someone who's not there yet. Like I think I'm at a point where I'm just sort of like, okay. At best.
You tolerate yourself?
Yes, at best I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And so I'm just so curious as to how you got there. Have you always been slender and in shape? Did that help?
How dare you? I have always been skinny, but that didn't help. I mean, like as a queer person, like right, like queer men have such body dysmorphia. It's fucking disgusting because I think that my theory is we are marketed the same way that women are marketed to, where it's like the most perfect, in shape, beautiful person. You're like, I can never attain that. So that didn't make me love myself. Therapy is what helped. Years and years, and I'm still in therapy. Because I tell this story, which is that when I was 21 or 20, I went to the NYU counselor because I just gone through a breakup with the first guy that I dated. And I don't remember what the whole session was, but at the end, I said to her that no matter how attractive I might be, I would never be as attractive as a white man. And she, as a white woman, looked at me with horror. And that's kind of when I knew that I had something off.
Okay.
I was like, when I saw that white woman's fear in her eyes, I was like, oh, me, girl?
Is this not right?
Is this not good? Not bad? You don't know how to deal with this? Okay. So I think that was like the beginning of, oh, there is something here. And there was a lot of fumbling. I mean, after that came that relationship with that abusive partner who I didn't realize was abusive at the time. And there was a lot of, I mean, it's been a lot of trial and error, but I think it's a muscle that I've been actively trying to work on. And if you're not actively working on that muscle, it'll never happen. I don't think our society isn't set up for us to love ourselves. Like we are, this is going to go wild for a little bit. We're in a capitalistic society that thrives on us not liking ourselves.
Yep.
That's how we sell products. That's how we sell shows. It's all built on us not liking ourselves or not loving ourselves. So it's a muscle that we really have to be adamant about flexing and building.
Yeah, and we're not even like the stuff that I deal with in therapy is like a lot of us are built in such a way that you're not even paying attention to any of that stuff. It's not just that like you have to keep working on it, but you have to learn how to actually pay attention to these feelings in your body, recognize them in the moment, and then work on them.
Yes,
that
you have to
whole
clock
thing
it.
It's
Yeah.
such
It's
a
a
long
lot.
process.
It's a lot of
You
work.
have to, the negative, because if you think about like the negative thought factors have been in your system since you were like 6, 7, like it's always going. And so first thing is like to be able to clock the negative thoughts that are just running through your head
Right.
all the time. And then once you are able to engage with that, now it's like, how do you stop that? It's a whole process.
It really is. It's way too much work. or it's like, or not just way too much work, but I remember feeling like the moment I realized that it was going to be ongoing work. I thought I would be
Yes.
fixed at some
Oh,
point.
you thought you would do therapy for
Yes.
a certain amount of years and then
Yeah. Like
like
where I was-
someone
I'm-
fixing a TV.
Yes. I thought it was going to be
Right.
a Goodwill fucking Hunting moment where he say some shit, I cry, we hug, I'm going to go see about a girl. Like, I thought it was just
Yes.
all going to be fixed in a
Easy.
moment. You know, I thought it was going to be like, you know, getting your degree. You have now finished crazy. You are on to healthy. And, like, it wasn't. It's like, oh, this going to be every day for the rest of my life.
Every day.
You thought the therapist would hold up a sign that said, "How do you like them apples?" to your brain.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yes. Of
and
course.
LinkedIn.
But because from our earlier conversation, because we're constantly changing, it's just like new shit that you didn't even know was there comes up and it just triggers, right? It's like now you're older, now your body is changing, now your skin is changing. And what is that? Things that you haven't had to deal with come up, and then you have to like get back in there.
Right.
And you're like, okay.
It's so real. Okay.
true.
We're going to take a quick break while I just let that sink in and try to get myself back. Then we'll be back with Brandon Kyle Goodman to help handle your scandal.
Yes. Like Olivia Pope?
Hey y'all, breaking into the show very quickly to just give you 3 pieces of information. If you would like to support the show, there are a couple different ways. One of them is our Patreon. Now, Naomi, I love doing this. We just get to like sit on the couch and like really dig in to our feelings.
We dig into our feelings. We dig into our lives. We are really mining our love for content.
Yeah.
If you're into that, you can go to patreon.com/couplestherapypod, and for $5, you get 2 bonus episodes a month and tons more bonus content. The other way you can help us out is buy a little merch. We've got awesome t-shirts, don't we, Andy?
Hey, look, you know me. You know, in my little indie rock heart, all I ever wanted was cool t-shirts. And we finally got them.
Now we got them.
We got them. We got the cool new design of the logo, and we've got Gotta Miss a Bitch t-shirts.
Yes, indeed. And now, if you want to help us out without spending a dime, you know what you can do? Rate the show, subscribe to the show, review the show. Honey, that don't cost no money. Take you 2 minutes. And it really does help us out.
Yeah, if you go to Apple Podcasts and do that, it's actually a huge help to subscribe to the show and rate and review it. So
yeah, and obviously review it positively.
Oh, sure.
Okay,
yeah.
like I'm not asking for like serious feedback. So if you could just, like be supportive, that would be great.
Yeah. Yes, we have voids inside us.
Yeah.
Endless voids that need positive reinforcement.
Absolutely.
All right.
Now let's fill that void by getting back to the show.
And we're back
With Brandon Kyle Goodman. Now that I feel like the readers know who you are, where you're coming from, a little bit of backstory, now we can kind of dig into some of their questions. You know what I mean? And
Okay.
so they kind of know when we're giving our 2 cents.
Yeah.
Where we're making change. That's what I say to get the 2 cents.
Come on now.
You know?
Yeah.
Now, we get questions by DM. We get questions by Gmail. We get questions
dare
by
you.
voicemail. This one, of course, comes to us at Naomi's DMs.
Oh, yeah. I got a DM about this. Oh, can I read it then?
Sure.
Because this is the one, and I was like, it's funny because she wrote me personally, and I was like, all right, I want to talk to you about this. But then I was like, can I also talk about it on the show? Just because I thought it was worthwhile, because I'm sure like a lot of people have this feeling maybe. Okay.
Right there, number 17.
Yes. Now, there's a question, and then she writes, maybe more for Andy? Some background.
Hold on. There's a lot of compliments.
Andy, I don't read the compliments like you do.
She loves the pod.
I've listened to every episode since March in 2 weeks. Okay?
We need the compliments. Come on.
Okay, fine. Okay. Some background. My parents are happily married. My dad is black from Mississippi. Mom is German from Germany. So my white mom is difficult. Every time you mention things your mom does to me, I want to shout retweet because I literally deal with all of these things from my mother. But on top of being as difficult as she is, she doesn't seem to understand racial slurs and thinks I am racist and that you, Naomi, are racist.
Ooh.
Why? You call Andy Jubu. She believes this is the same as any slur, like the N-word. She is mad at me for saying things like, ugh, white people are being wild today, even though my white boyfriend will fully agree with the statement because he understands I don't mean I hate white people. I mean, in this instance, white people are tripping. How can I explain to her that Jubu is a groundbreaking, hilarious, cute as shit, loving, amazing, and nothing like calling someone the N-word? So,
By the way, I have been called, by the way, certain words that are not fun.
that are
and
not as loving as Jubu.
that are not as loving as Jubu. And I would just say this, they elicit a different feeling in my body than when my dear loving wife calls me Jubu.
I mean, am I racist, Brandon?
No, you
I
can't
know.
be.
I know. It was a trick question I asked you. But it is interesting, though, because I will say, and when I said to her, when my mom first heard I called Andy Jubu, she was like, that's not appropriate, Naomi. How would you like it if he called you Black Boo? And I was like, well, I wouldn't like it because it doesn't rhyme. You know?
It doesn't work. It's not a good nickname.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
It's not a good nickname.
You know?
Not mellifluous.
It's mellifluous. I love that, Andrew.
Spell it.
I love a $10 word.
That's 20 at least.
You're right. $10 word. But like, so, you know, I've also heard it from another Black person. You know, I don't know if it's like a mom thing, but this is, because I think it's like, this is not even just about the word Jubu, but it is about our listener having a conversation with her white mother. You know, because she is half Black and probably walks through the world with a different experience than her mother.
Sure.
So for her mother to sort of accuse her or me, someone she's listening to, of like racism, is kind of to not really grasp the nuances.
Well, yes, and to be very incorrect and kind of like needs to go back to basics of like, well, what is racism? Let's start there. You need that kind of conversation first, and then, you know, understanding that the N-word and Jubu are just nowhere near each other.
Continents apart.
Continent.
Well, because also like
Worlds.
Jubu, you know, boo means lover, a boo. So to call someone a Jewish boo a Jubu is a Jewish boo. Mother has to understand what the word boo means, I think, to really
Yes,
understand. She
which
doesn't know what
Alicia
boo-
Keys and Usher taught us. They
My
which a girl I did it in high school, that was our song.
Oh my God, how tender.
I know, no longer our song, but still very much my song.
I'll throw this wrinkle in for you guys.
Yeah.
She is German.
Yeah.
So she
bomb.
might be a little oversensitive.
Sensitive.
Knowing the history, knowing maybe what she grew up in Germany
Sure.
as the history of her country, and perhaps, I don't know, something that may have happened there.
Oh, okay.
Roughly
Sure.
75,
Sounds familiar.
75, 80 years ago, that
Ringing a
apparently
bell.
50% of Zoomers don't know existed.
Oh, right.
A little
I
event.
remember that.
A little event called the Weimar Republic. No, it's the Third Reich, obviously.
Yeah,
is what
right,
we're
right,
talking
right.
about.
Yeah, of course, Henny, we know.
Just so we're clear. For our Zoomer friends out there. But so I know that like growing up in Germany, you're kind of very sensitive to anti-Semitism. So anything that even like might verge on that could like raise your hackles. Is that the phrase?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Could
Well, here's a question for you, though. Your parents know I call you Jubu. Like, one of the first time they saw me do stand up was at a JCC, Jewish Community Center in York, Pennsylvania, honey. And Andy's
that was
parents drove.
That was a lot. That was a mouthful.
First of all, the show was called Laugh Your Tuchus Off. And the lineup was me and
yes.
4 Jewish men.
Yes.
And the best part was even the poster. All of their pictures, you know, because there was like headshots, were all
Sure.
black and white, and mine was in color in more ways than one.
Ah!
And it was like, and when we got there, I literally, of course, did Jubu material. So, like, did your parents ever say anything to you about it or have a conversation? Did you ever get the sense that they didn't like the term?
No, because they understand it. I
Yeah.
think I agree with you guys also. I'm saying I was just trying to say I bet that she is maybe a little oversensitive, but also it might be a thing where if you don't have a sense of humor, this person I think there's a lot of people that go around this world, I don't understand them, that don't have senses of humor. And so they miss out on a lot of nuance of things.
Yeah.
And so I would say to this person, you got to sit your mom down in front of a season of Cheers on Netflix.
How dare you?
That's terrible. I was going to say
How
Chris
dare
Rock.
you? That's it.
Sit her in front of Bring the Pain and be like, Mom, do you get it now?
But I also think what's important here is how Andy feels about it, right? Like, I think, like, that's where it's like, okay, Mom, you're being sensitive or whatever, but, like, let's think about the person who's receiving it and what his take on it is. And this is a married couple who love each other, and this is their term of endearment. And we have to take that into account as opposed to being like, well, I said it's racist, so it's right. It's like, well,
Exactly.
not
I think
quite.
that's so important. I think especially with, like, whenever it comes to any kind of labels, I'm the kind of person where it's like, tell me what to call you. You tell me
Right.
what to call you. And I'm going to go
Yes.
with whatever you fucking say.
Right.
Absolutely.
And so it's like one of those things where it's like, well, you know, because I know sometimes, depending on who I'm talking to, people have, like, if I don't use the term Latinx, and then some people will be like, you have to use that term. But it's like, well, it depends on what the person wants to be called and how they think
Absolutely.
of themselves, you know? And so sometimes I really find like feeling offended on behalf of other people, I think, is pretty useless.
Yes. I think that you can always step in and correct if you hear something that really is wrong or offensive. But if you're not sure, I think it's really a reach to be like, oh, that black woman on that podcast is racist because she's calling her husband. Like, that's like a different level. That's not quite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think being offended on someone's behalf, though, is like a form of like, I have no power in my life, and this is the one thing I can somehow have power over, is like being offended, is exercising like my morals, my ethics on behalf of this person.
But it's interesting, though, because even as I said it, I think there's obviously a little like nuance to it, because I do think, for instance, a lot of racism work, to me, it's incumbent on white people. So
Yes.
in some ways that is them, quote, being offended on someone else's behalf. But
Sure,
I think it's in the,
That's where they end. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah.
that's where they ended. They're
Oh,
like,
the
I'm
outrage.
I'm outraged, I'm offended on your behalf. We did it.
and that's it. And that's it.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
It's like, what action do you take as a result? But I feel like, too, it's like, to me, it's like I would much rather a white person school another white person, because I think the conversation's going to go a lot better than
Sure.
if, you know, like the moment like my black ass starts talking, it's automatically now a different kind of
Oh,
conversation.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But also again, so let's take it away from Jubu. She's also saying her mom hates it when she says white people be tripping, or these white people are wild today. You know, she really takes it kind of literally as all of these white people. And
Well,
go ahead, please.
what I like, I mean, when I have this conversation, I like to say that, like, and I'm going to tread lightly here. With white people, like, white people are able to kind of find their lineage, right? So German, French, Italian, whereas black people aren't able to. And so there's a different thing when you say black people are blah, 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 and white people are whatever, because black people, you end up kind of offending across a lot of different lineages that we just don't know about. And so you do have to take extra care there. Whereas white people, there's a colloquialism that I feel like you get to use, especially as a person of color when you're talking about it, because they are the majority, or not the majority, but they're the majority in power. And there's a lot of oppression. And so we're able to talk about them
punch
in a
up,
different
yeah.
way. Yes,
Yeah.
as opposed to like white people and all of your lineage, they are the majority in power.
Yeah.
And so when you talk about black people or Latinx people or indigenous people, it feels different. And to pull that out, it's like a poor person talking about a rich person or making jokes about a rich people is very different than a rich person making jokes about poor people, right? Like there's a different sensitivity and a different, like it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me
Right.
throw this at you guys and see how it feels too. I think there's also a misunderstanding of racism that racism is reified into a thing as a, like, if you say a certain thing or do a certain thing, you are racist. You're irredeemably racist, and that's it. That's the end. That's the end. You're from cradle to the grave. You're a racist, as opposed to it being a power relation, right? And when you show that, like, well, no, racism works when someone in power spends centuries oppressing another group, and that's how it develops. It's not just like I said Jubu, if like Hitler called me Jubu.
Yeah. Very much less romantic. Much less romantic.
Not sexy.
I mean, cute.
Not sexy.
Cute, but not loving.
But like that's a different thing than my loved
Yes.
one.
Right.
Than it's calling me it, right?
Right.
Because it's a
Yes.
different power relationship.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Well, it's very interesting, because I would also say too, what you're talking about white people and lineages, it's also different in America, because I feel like when we deal with racism in America, a lot of it is cloaked in America as a country,
Yeah.
whereas like I imagine a white person from Europe, from Germany, in the case of mother, is different than a white person just from like Georgia, for instance, because they have this distinct European identity and a history to it.
Yes,
that they're like,
yes.
because I'm sure a German person would feel like I'm sure she may feel like she's not like white Americans. You know what I mean? Or
Sure.
like a German American person.
1,000%.
Right? So it's like, well, I'm not like that kind of white, you know? Whereas me as a
Yes.
black person, I didn't know there were different brands of white.
Right.
When I was
can't
younger, I
delineate.
didn't. When I was younger, I did not know. Like, when I went to Dalton, I mean, Andy and I talk about this a lot, like me not realizing Jewish people were its own thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I thought it was just a religion. I didn't understand that it was an actual ethnic group. And so
Me
it wasn't
too.
until I got to school. And then I was like, oh. And so, like,
And
when
it's
I look
even
at people.
different in terms of like class and geography, right?
The different types.
Me, a middle-class Jewish person from Pennsylvania, is very different from a very wealthy Jewish person from New York City.
Sure.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And like not necessarily knowing that, right? And when you are like, to me, I'm just like, you're white. I don't know. I'm like, what?
Yes. I don't understand.
What is this? What do you mean? You finish? You said you finish? What's finish? You know, like I just like didn't know. And so,
Yes.
and I also think a lot of white Americans, I mean, some of them are very into their culture, you know what I mean? And like you'll have, I mean, St. Patrick's Day, honey, I didn't even know how many people could be
Honey.
Irish. They all come out. They all come out in green. I didn't know. But
I don't think they're all Irish that
I
are
know,
celebrating.
I know, they're not. People are like into being drunk.
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day is SantaCon for,
Yes.
for shamrocks.
So I think it's like that's the other thing, but I think you do have to have. It's hard to have that conversation with your mother because I know that mothers are triggering, parents in general. Like it's so hard to kind of have a conversation with them without it instantly pushing your own buttons. You know?
Yes. Which is why I think you have to, in any of those conversations, because I commonly get asked like how to deal with racist relatives or how to talk about race. I think if you can come into it curiously, like asking questions. So what do you like, Mom, what do you think is happening when Naomi is saying Jubu? When you say racist, what do you mean by that? What does that mean for you? Because you're likely having different conversations in general. Like mom's understanding of racist and daughter's understanding of racist, I would guess is different.
Yes.
And so you'll never come to an agreement or a resolution until you define those terms. Like you define what's happening to you, Mom, when you hear Jubu. What does that bring?
When you hear
in?
white people wild today, what
Yes.
makes you feel like it's personal?
What triggers you?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's more emotional labor on, our
Yeah.
part as times. But it's like, if you're really trying to get to a reckoning or a resolution, one of us has to be curious.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just both defending our points and it'll never work out.
That's true.
That is conflict management.
That's
Yes.
conflict management, honey.
Andy, give us our next question.
Yeah, let's do one more. This is a delightful voicemail.
I love voicemails the best, you guys. We always say,
Ooh.
honey, when I get the voicemail, I can hear where you're coming from emotionally, okay?
Yes.
So call us 323-524-7839.
Hi, Naomi. Hi, Andy. I love the show. I found you guys via Ask Rana, and I'm calling in with a question. So I haven't smoked weed in like the last month just because I kind of felt like I just wanted to like take a little break. You know how some people do like their sober September or whatever from not drinking or whatever. I just wanted to have one of those, but for weed. The problem is my boyfriend hates it when I smoke weed, even though when I do, like, I don't just get couch locked. I like to do it and clean the house. And, it makes me feel really creative. And I get some of my best creative stuff done when I'm on it. But he just hates it. And I feel like, if it was the kind of thing where I was just sleeping all day or doing it right when I wake up, that would be one thing, but I really feel like I'm using it responsibly and it's not, I'm not spending money I don't have on it or anything like that. And I don't know. I guess, what are your guys' thoughts when you're doing something responsibly and your partner doesn't like it for what seems like irrational reasons? Which are the smell and also that his sister used to smoke a lot of weed, which, like, I don't see what that has to do with me. And also, I'll, like, do it right before I clean, and then I'll get in the shower, or, you know, whatever. So I try to mitigate it all and do it outside, I should also say. So I try to mitigate it all as best as possible. But, you know, especially in quarantine, you know, I like to get high and color in a coloring book or something, and I just don't feel like his hard line on it is fair. I'm calling because the month is almost over, and I'm trying to figure out if I should go get some weed or not. So I would love your guys' thoughts on this. Okay, bye.
An immediate yes.
An immediate
Yes,
Brandon.
immediately. I actually dealt with this with my husband.
Really?
Yes.
Do go
yeah.
on. Give us every detail.
Yes, I love smoking weed, and there was a time when my husband was not as happy about it. And this is, again, with the last question, curiosity. And I think the sister is actually a key component in this. There's something emotionally triggering about the weed to this caller's partner, and that's what he needs to investigate. Because there is probably something irrational or whatever, but there's probably something emotionally attached to weed for his partner. Like, it represents something. So for my husband, it represented, you know, kind of the branding of weed and his mother's relationship to it. And it meant that you were a slacker and that you were lazy and that it was a gateway drug. So all this stuff that we were kind of raised in that you never question, right? You never question, okay, is weed actually bad? What is bad about it? What are you like just getting curious about all the conclusions that we've made about it and what it actually is.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. I mean, so how long did that take? Was it simply having one conversation with your now husband to get him to realize, or how long did y'all kind of grapple with it?
It was a couple conversations for sure. And just just getting curious, being like, well, tell me what this means. And then kind of saying, okay, well, that's not what it means for me. And that's not my relationship to it. And we have to, as partners, respect that we both have different relationships to this thing. And how do we come to the center? Because it's not like, I'm not saying I want to do math. Like, it's a very different conversation. Like, you're being so unfair. I like doing math and cleaning the house. Like, that's not the conversation. So I think it's just like, let's come with facts. Let's talk about like what is weed? What is marijuana? What's my relationship to it? What does it do for me? How does it help me or whatever? And what does it do to you? Why does it make you anxious? And just having like a really grounded, not trying to win conversation. I think after 2 or 3 of those, it was like, okay, yeah, you're not doing it all the time. You do it on the balcony. It's not a big deal. You're not like a psycho when you know, some people are psycho. Some people, it don't hit right, you know? And so I get that. Like, if it doesn't hit right, but if it's not doing that and you're still a functioning person doing your stuff, then it's like, I guess this isn't as big a deal as I'm making it out to be.
Yeah, Naomi, you don't have a problem when I smoke opium and do the laundry.
As long as you fold the clothes, honey, you can have all the
Honey,
opium
you can do whatever you want. Fold it, put it away.
Put it away, exactly. I mean, but even now when you smoke, is there a part of you that's conscious about not doing it around him or waiting till he's gone, or no? You don't even
no,
try to adjust it out? Okay.
no, because he's like, you know, we've since passed that and he doesn't care. But no, there wasn't. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
we didn't ever go through that. I mean, I don't know, because like I tend to be like, it's interesting. Like you and I versus, you know, Andy's vegetarian. I'm not. Andy's never pressured me about it. Never given me shit. Yet there is a part of me, I don't really cook meat in the house.
Ooh.
And it's not, and you've never really said it. You've never said anything about it. But it's like kind of like.
I mean, there is meat in the freezer. You just never do anything.
Oh,
with
you
it.
mean by meat? You mean the 2 pieces of fish? Fish is meat. You see what I'm dealing with? I'm like, I got 2 frozen salmon pieces from Trader Joe's.
That's fish. That's not meat. Look at the pyramid. The pyramid says it's fish.
All right, this isn't Lent. It's all flesh to me.
Flesh, my goodness. But you know.
Well, this is the thing. I think I think there are a couple things that stuff like this triggers in people. Whatever it is, if there's some kind of like moral disapproval,
yes,
somewhere. I think like for vegetarianism, this isn't with Naomi, but I know my dad, it kind of triggers my dad. I know he like makes comments about it. He's not nasty, but he will like make a comment if we go to a restaurant together. And
Yes.
I think he feels like it's a morally superior. There's something moral about being a vegetarian, even though I don't proselytize. I don't say,
Right.
I don't say anything. I don't like show him pictures of slaughterhouses while we're eating. Like it's nothing
Right.
like that. But that in his mind, it is a more moral position. And just by dint of existing around him, that is calling his ethics into question.
It's an unchecked bias, right? Like it's a bias or like an assumption that's never been examined. So he has an assumption about vegetarians. He's never examined it. And so you get these side comments when you go to dinner as opposed to like, well, what is vegetarianism? And what is my like stuff around it? And is my son even like trying to make me a vegetarian? Like whatever that, you know what I'm saying?
It's funny actually because you say this and I kind of realize it probably ties into, you, Andy, make no bones about thinking where you grew up was kind of a shitty town, thinking that like you're a little bit kind of better.
Not shitty,
Yeah,
but just basic.
okay, basic, right?
Okay,
but
okay.
I wonder if that vegetarianism also again that's something that you kind of that happened for you when you left home and you kind of got to what was it grad school or college? But either way, it was like a little bit of like
Grad school, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's kind of wrapped up in that Andy think he better than
Sure.
everybody shit.
Sure.
And I wonder if that hits that same button for dad as you
Sure.
being like,
Well, I do.
there's nothing good to do here. Like,
Come on, do this work. Yes, come on, do this work. Yes.
I do send him a text every day that says I'm better than you.
right. No,
That
be
would do
honest,
it,
But
that
you
would
know
do it.
what I mean, though.
Yeah. Oh, sure. There's a lot of like. There's definitely a lot of stuff from like. Probably because I mean, look, this is me guessing, but like probably because they, my parents are also conflict averse. So we don't really talk about this stuff, but like I would guess like this stuff comes from like when I was a little more like as a teenager vocal and arrogant about like hating Reading and being like this place is basic, I can't wait to get out of here and all
Yeah.
that kind of
Sure,
the
sure,
suburbs
sure.
suck, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure there is probably some resentment from even though I don't talk like that anymore.
Sure.
There's probably still some resentment on their
Yeah.
part.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
lingers because it was never resolved. It's these unresolved emotions, and I'm sure for your listener, his boyfriend has some unresolved emotions around weed that is now he is now the listener receiving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
It's just like, well, it's just getting curious about like, well, where is that coming from? What is
Right.
actually on
Right.
the table? The evidence, as therapists like to say. Show me the evidence.
Show me the receipts, if you will.
Show me the receipts. if
Because
you
quite
will.
honestly, it
Right.
sounds like this person is getting high and organized in his receipts. So I
Hey,
say
man.
let him do it. I say let him do it.
that.
If
He
he's
gonna get high and clean the shower?
Thank
Do
you.
that.
I'm like, excuse me. I mean, and I guess also if it's like if it is like just a smell thing, because I know I don't like the smell of it. I don't do it, but obviously the alternative would be like an edible. So you can always kind of do it. That
Yes.
would be like, no, it's not just smell. You know what I mean? Like it's like nah, because
Yeah.
that can be fixed.
Yeah.
It's the other stuff.
I wonder how
It's the
old they
other
are
stuff.
too, because like I grew up with Dare and Just Say No and that kind of
Yes.
stuff.
Yeah.
And that
Yes.
shit got in my head. Like I've never done any drugs. I don't have a problem. There's almost no drug. Like if someone else wants to do it, I have gotten freaked out when people do coke and shit in front of me.
I don't
that,
like the
that-
look of crack, and that's because I saw New Jack City
Sure.
as a child.
Like I would probably.
messed me up.
But if you want to do a drug,
Requiem for a Dream.
That's exactly
right?
Fucked me up. Fucked me up.
Yes, there are images from that movie that will never leave my brain.
Yep.
That's a movie you only need to see once.
Once. I remember
That
seeing
is-
it in college and like, oh my God, Jared Leto with that arm.
Oh my
said,
God.
I can't.
It was the mother. It was Ellen Burstyn for me,
Really?
thinking that she was walking in the street, thinking that everything was fine, and then it's just.
Oh
Oh,
my
Jesus.
God.
I just said, see. Don't fuck around.
They should just play that in schools now.
Sure.
Like
Really
instead
and
of Dare,
truly.
just show
Oh my
Requiem
God.
for a Dream.
Oh,
Yeah.
I am planning to show that to my 14-year-old when I have one. Sit your ass down, watch this movie.
Yeah.
Keep
But
your ass out of trouble.
It fucks with your head, like all that stuff, and you're like, oh, if I do one bong rip, I'm gonna be
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in like a crack house the next day. Like,
Right,
that
right,
was the
right.
messaging
Yes.
during the 80s into the 90s.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Totally.
And so I wonder if there's some of that like kind of like fear.
Right.
in this
Right.
person's partner.
That his partner has to unpack on his own.
Yes.
Right, because he can see our listener is, as he's saying, he's like, I don't sleep all day, I'm not like bolted to the couch, and so it's obviously your partner's not becoming that person.
Yes.
And if he ever were to, like, the listener's not becoming that person, and if the listener were to become that kind of person, then you leave them. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, there's no, like, to me, it's kind of like, you can't tell somebody to stop doing something. You either stay or you go.
Right.
You
right.
know? And so if it's not hurting you, if you can kind of unpack so y'all need to have a talk. That's our long way of saying y'all need to have some talk.
Y'all need to have a talk. Because it's not hurting you, it's not hurting him, then what are we?
Where is the
What's
hurt? Where's the hurt?
Show me the hurt and then we can stop.
What if the boyfriend just hates fish? And
The band?
yes, there's 2 pieces of fish in the stereo.
2 pieces of fish?
Sorry, that was a terrible callback to you talking about 2
I know,
pieces
but
of
I
salmon.
didn't understand. I was like,
PHISH. They're a jam band, Naomi.
that people who are high like.
Yes.
Oh.
Hey,
fish.
so
When I
you know-
get high, I watch Whitney Houston videos.
Do you?
It hits. That voice hits, honey. Honey, the voice hits differently. It hits differently.
My God.
you guys know a joke is successful when you have to explain it to people with furrowed brows.
That's when it's out of the park. It's a real A to D situation. Oh, Brandon, thank you so much for talking to us.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. This was the best.
You're wonderful. Can't wait. Everybody, listen to Brandon's podcast, okay? It is so good. It is so fun. It is out now.
Yes.
So get your life. All
Get
right.
your life.
We'll
Both
talk
of
to
them.
you.
Do the work in black folks.
Woo!
Hey.
All right. Talk to y'all next week. Bye.
Talk